Hey, welcome. I'm going to walk you through Harmony SEL, which is a fantastic digital curriculum and other resources related to instruction that's all made available for free. This is kind of a unicorn where something this well developed and this fancy is maintained and grown by this nonprofit and available for free. It's fantastic. So you're going to need an account, so register now for free. And then it'll have you type in your name, contact info, set up your password, of course, and then ask about you and your district. And then you click submit. And then once you have an account, you'll be able to log in right here. And then if you see this screen, Harmony is what we're talking about. They have these other resources, but you see go now to third edition or second edition. So this is obviously the newest third edition. So let's click that. And then if you're ever on this screen, you can see kind of up at the top here, view second edition. That means that I'm looking at the third edition right now because they're giving me the option to go back to the second edition. So you want to be on the third edition, I would say. And let's just pause here for a beat. This website is kind of a lot and kind of overwhelming the first time you see it. So that's kind of my main goal in this video, is to walk you through but it'll take you a while to kind of get a sense of all that's here, partly because they repeat a lot of stuff. So it's one of those websites where there's a bunch of different ways to get to the same stuff. Like you can see this kind of quick links thing over here that takes you to some of their everyday activities that I'll talk about. But there's other ways to get to the same stuff. Like over here gets you to the same stuff. Over here, meet up, buddy up. You can see meet up, buddy up. So there is a good amount of stuff here and it's great, but I mean, it's not like there's a bajillion things. Like, there's ways to get to the same stuff. But in this video, I'm going to walk you through the main units and lessons, kind of front and center here, literally. And then I'm going to talk about these everyday practices, these extra things that kind of float around the lessons. And then I'll talk about the PD resources that Harmony actually makes available. So without further ado, let's jump into lessons. So on this kind of main bar up here, you can hover over curriculum and you'll see pre-K up through 6th grade. And then of course, right front and center here, you can do the same thing. And it generally saves which grade level you're on. So if you just teach 3rd grade groups, you can just click 3rd grade and it'll probably just pop up 3rd grade every single time you're in here, which is nice. I'm going to go to kindergarten and let's click unit 1, being my best self. So this will show me the whole unit, what it's about, a little summary, unit vocabulary, homeschool connections, if you want to use that for your SEL skills group. But let's jump into just unit 1 because I want to show you, or lesson 1, I want to show you what a lesson looks like. So it'll give you a description of what the lesson's about, and again, an overview and lesson goals. But when you scroll down, that's where you get to the actual materials. So it'll link to a storybook, which I'm going to show you in a second, and then worksheets in this case, which is so great that they have worksheets available, especially for our littles. And then down here is beyond the lesson, kind of ways to integrate it. So this is aimed at classroom teachers, I would say. So you as what is probably going to be watching this video, you're probably going to be a pull-out interventionist running a smaller skills group. So these things may not be as applicable to you, but they could be things to offer a teacher. If a teacher asks you, kind of what are you working on? What can I do to support it in class? There are some ideas here for sure. But when we get to the actual lesson, you can see it gives you timing cues of how long things are going to take. And then it gives you in a different color, so it's easy to see what you should be saying to the student. So there's the script right there to introduce things. And then you click facilitate the activity and it shows you the worksheets, which is nice. So those are those worksheets that were at the top here. So it does take a little bit of prep to scan over this script before you're actually doing it with students. But the nice thing is that once you do this lesson, you get more and more fluid with it. Especially as an interventionist, you tend to repeat the same things with multiple groups. So you could have this open on your Chromebook or your laptop and be reading off of it. I mean, that would be the quickest way to have these links and stuff actually available to you. What you also could do is print. So I've known at least one interventionist I worked with who printed all of these lessons and kept them in a binder, which as long as you have the website available, you could do that. And let me show you why you want the website available, because these books are fantastic. So you open it up, let me click play here, and I hope the audio will save.
A feelings detective. One day, Aloe, Quinn, and Z were at the clubhouse painting pictures together.
And then I can click pause. And then it'll have discussion questions for me. Let's see if I click here. Yep, so discussion prompts for the story. Isn't that fantastic? And I can skip pages if I want to. But it's just so great that they have those stories and it'll actually read it to the students. And moving beyond just the lessons themselves, then let's get into some of these other extra activities. So let's look at everyday practices. I want to focus on meetup and buddy up in my video here. So meetup is, you can see a picture here. Like if you had your whole SCL group together and you were going to do some community building, meetup is their term for that. So they have the steps to explain it in a little bit more detail than what I just did, but let's look at their printable resources. So they have the again, there's so much here on this website. Like they have the steps that I just mentioned, like to run a meetup. They have right here on a piece of paper you could print. But the quick connections cards is what I was going to get to. So color version, black and white version, early childhood or upper grades. So community building questions, collaborations, which are little like tasks and activities you can have kids cooperate on, or conversations. And I want to show you Buddy Up, which is similar, but it's just two students working together. So remember what I said, like you can again see Meetup and Buddy Up over here on the left side. There's so many ways on this website to get to the same things. I did want to show you, where are they? Quick connection cards. Display virtual quick connection cards. Oh good, it's loading faster this time. So this is super neat. Like you could put this on your computer or on a smart board. Let's click play. And then we can actually click conversations. And then I'm on early childhood. Let's switch to upper grades. And we can actually scroll and see these digitally. And then we can heart them. So I mean, kids can actually touch this on the smart board and just interact with it, which is super cool. And that's not the only thing. So let's get into, when I go up to curriculum here again, go down to stories, songs, and games. So storybooks are going to be those same stories from your lessons. I hope it loads pretty quick here. So these are I wouldn't necessarily kind of blast through all these storybooks like the first 2 weeks of school, because students are going to get them in the lessons again. So you don't want to necessarily, you can see kind of lesson 1.5, 2.1, 2.2. So I would say you want to expose the students to these stories in the context of the lesson, like it was designed. But we all know littles, they really like to hear, if they like a story, they'll ask you to hear it more than once. So this is a really nice place to quickly get to all those stories versus having to go through the lessons to get to that storybook. So it's just another way to get to the story. And same thing with the songs. So you can play songs that will come up in the lessons. But I wanted to not forget to show you games, because this is so cool. So let's scroll down. Unit 1 being myself, Unit 2 valuing each other, Unit 3. So let's click on the one I was playing, the caterpillar game. So I hope it loads. Oh, it's loading fast. That's great. So they actually have an app, and when I get back, I'll show you that. So you could play it on an iPad, I believe, definitely on a phone. But let's click play. And I'm not going to read the directions here, but I just want to show you as quick as I can. Let's say 3 players. And then we get to We get to pick our game icons. How cool is this? I just love, I mean, it has music, it's interactive. You don't have to print out all these materials like you do with some games, which we got to do sometimes, like print out and know the directions ourselves. But this just walks you through it as the adult, which is so nice. So it'll vary, like butterfly cards, caterpillar cards. It'll give you different activities to do. So she's reading it to us, and then
players decide that you had a worm thought or a caterpillar thought?
I just want to see if we get a different card. So that was a butterfly card, and this is a certain type of task. Oh, same one. Okay.
You and your friend Jen.
Well, I'm just going to skip past this, but you can just see how cool is that there's actual interactive games built in here. And the last thing, again, I wanted to show you. Oh, shoot. Here's the link to get to that app, if it opens up for me. Oh, okay. I think I have to download for iOS. Okay, well anyway, on your App Store or your Android store, you can get to that. Harmony Game Room is what it's called. And so I mentioned, I've gone through so far the actual units and lessons, and then the extra activities like the storybook, songs, and games, and these quick connection cards, and these meetup and buddy up, so these kind of community building or task-based activities. So you've got these structured units and lessons, and then you've got all this other stuff that can kind of hover around it and orbit around it. And for actual planning, let me see if I can find it on their website. Planning and pacing guides. Yeah, so they have a web page, and that was under program resources, the planning and pacing guides, to kind of walk you through like a weekly plan, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you see like meetup is like that community building thing I was talking about, an actual lesson, then a buddy up activity, and then the total time. And they have this lesson split between 2 days. And then there's an alternative version here. So they're kind of coaching you through how you can take the lessons themselves and then those other activities and make them work together. So this is what a typical week could look like. And on our website, we very similarly have a pacing guide and a weekly planning tool, which I'll show you. You can see that week looks very much the same, and this is just a template to be modified, but same idea that we want to take the actual lesson content, but then other activities, and then sort them out so that we have kind of a predictable ritual flow when students come for a session with our group. And then this is a great way to keep track of which lessons you've done, and then you can add in other activities. So you might not just be using Harmony, you might be mixing it with Be Good People lessons, worksheets that you get from Teachers Pay Teachers or other places, or from Pinterest. So you've got a lot of materials, and then you can put those worksheets and other materials in line with the Harmony unit where it makes sense. And this is just a great way to keep track of what you're teaching. And then finally, let's get to the PD materials, training and advanced education. So they have on-demand training. So if you were curious about anything I talked about and you're like, oh man, I wish he had talked a little bit more of that, you can see like these are actual demonstration videos of someone doing an example lesson. How valuable is that, right? Or that buddy up time, or the meetup time, which is more the group community building that I mentioned. So you can actually see examples of those. And then let me see if I can get to Harmony Edition. Yep. So I would click play here, and this is like an introduction to everything that I just talked about. She's just going to go through it in more detail and kind of from a generic perspective. but you can see tons of on-demand materials. And then they have live trainings and webinars that you can add to your calendar that are actually scheduled. So you can keep an eye on that if you're curious about any topics and actually want to attend one live. And then finally, they have a site tour. So I'm not going to click it, but it's one of those things. Remember how I said the website was kind of overwhelming and kind of a lot? That you can just click and you can click continue, and people will pop up and explain everything about the website and what it's for. So that is about all I can cover. I've thrown so much at you, but remember, I mean, there's the lessons and the units. That's kind of your core thing to hang on to. And then there's all those extra things like the games, the community building, meetups and buddy up activities, the songs, just so much to use to support your skill groups.